Hello, everybody. I have Sister Lovinah here to share with us tonight. How are you doing tonight?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing very well. I thank you for your time for this interview. I know it's going to help somebody. So I want to open up.
Absolutely.
When I met you, you were
Hmm.
coordinating, ministering, doing all of that at a weekend event that your church put on the Carol Vance unit. And I was very impressed
Absolutely.
not only by your professionalism, but your testimony. Can you just share a little bit about yourself to let people know who you are?
Sure, absolutely. Um, let's see. I've been in Houston for most of my life, since probably about fifth grade. So I grew up mostly in Houston, but I've been incarcerated twice. The first time just wasn't enough, and that first trip, I went through like the lowest level of TDC, which is AdSeg. So I can get into that more later. But I did 2 years in, got out in 2004. I was doing fine for a while, and then somebody turned me on to selling pills. And so I ended up getting a manufacturing charge in 2010 and got an 8 year sentence. Did most of that, and that whole ordeal was a process. About 2 years into my sentence, I've always been a believer, but I had really strayed away from my faith throughout the years, and I was not. I didn't have a personal relationship with my higher power, Jesus Christ. So during that, after 2 years of being incarcerated on this second time to TDC, I allowed God into my heart and allowed Him to, I guess, like do like a reconstructive type of surgery and change me. I was open to that, receptive, rededicated my life. 2 years later, I made parole, uh, and I'm here now. So I don't know how far you want me to, how much detail you want, like as far as
And
after incarceration or what that prison the time was like, or but so right now I'm an alcohol and drug counselor, and I'm a full-time student. I've been home for 6.5 years. I got released July 7th, 2014. That was a lot. That me coming home was a trial in itself. But so today I'm an alcohol and drug counselor. I'll be fully licensed as a LCDC next month. Um, and I'm a full time student in a social work program. So I graduate with my bachelor's next semester in May, and grad school starts in July. So that's what I'm doing.
well, congratulations on what you have accomplished and what you're going to accomplish. When
Absolutely.
you were
It's,
speaking about your incarceration, and I've heard a piece of your testimony, you went to
mhm.
SIG. And
Yeah.
so a lot of times mental health is an important issue that oftentimes is overlooked.
Oh,
Do you
yeah.
have any comments concerning mental health, not just because you were incarcerated, but you, just like myself, we've seen a lot of problems that were misdiagnosed
Oh,
that
yeah.
if they had been identified as mental health problems, a lot of people probably would not be in prison right now.
Oh yeah, I strong wholeheartedly believe that. I'm probably what you would consider an abolitionist now. I'm a huge prison reform and prison advocate, and involved in all of that stuff. But I believe that, it's something called, that I've learned since being in school, but it's called ACEs. So it's adverse childhood experiences. I believe that that played a big part in me ever going to prison, and also in me, that first incarceration, me, the acting out the way that I did. It played a big part. So adverse childhood experiences is basically, to sum it up, would be trauma from your childhood that is not addressed, no treatment, no type of recovery from the trauma, and then as an adult, so if you take a ACE test, your ACE score, if you experience that trauma, no help, no guidance with any of that, your ACE score may be higher, which basically means you are more susceptible to going to prison, having mental health struggles, having a substance use disorder and all of that, if you have a high ACE score. So I know now, and I take full responsibility of all of my bad choices. However, I know that my childhood had a huge impact on the bad decisions I made as an adult. I went through sexual trauma as a child, abandonment. My mother was on drugs. And so that childhood trauma could be anything. It could be a fatherless household, growing up without one of your parents. It could be anything that is life changing. That's what trauma is. It's something that causes a drastic change in your life. It can be anything from a car wreck, a house fire, abuse. So I experienced all of that, physical and emotional abuse, sexual molestation, rape, surrounded by, drugs at different parts of my childhood, mother on drugs, abandonment, her not being there. And so when I look at my life, I feel like, wow, I fit into this statistic of people who have this childhood trauma. And wow, look at my adult life, twice in prison and all of that. And even while I was in prison, and some of it is spiritual, I believe, me not really knowing my identity and who I was, not valuing myself. Like when I was in AgSeg, I intentionally went to AgSeg. I intentionally got in trouble wanting to go to AgSeg. And in AgSeg, you're locked down in a cell 23 hours a day. And everywhere you go, you are shackled from my wrist to my ankles. So if I needed to go shower, I had to get down and kneel down so I could be shackled and get walked by a leash with the officers to the shower and back. If I wanted to get my tray, I had to kneel down on my knees to get my tray with my back to the officers and let them sit the tray in my door, and they can stand back, and then I can stand up, grab my tray, sit it down, and then go back and kneel down while they close my tray slot. I was so content when I was in AdSeg. That time was so easy for me. Like, I was like, this is where it's at. Something's not okay with that. It's something mentally, something I'm missing in my life inside of me that would make me think that I should be okay being isolated like that. And at that time was so easy for me. Being in GP and general population was a challenge. And so I got in the trouble I needed to get in to get there. And once I got there, I never got another case.
Okay, so let me ask this. With what you know now,
Yeah.
if you were speaking to you then on your first trip to prison,
Yeah.
what would be your statement or comments? Like, I'm you right now. Back then,
Right. What would I have?
you have
What would I have
everything
said
that
to
you have
myself back
going on
then?
because there's somebody looking at this
Yeah.
that they're like that right now. But I
Yeah.
also know
Yeah.
there's others looking that you can make a difference. So what would you say?
I would probably tell them that they matter, because at that time I really didn't think I mattered to anybody. But I will let them know that they matter, that they are loved, and more than anything, I will let them know that God loves them. And so I can't help but to tie so much of the spiritual aspect of things into it, because that's what I was missing. That's really what I was missing. I had no relationship with God at that time, and my life and my decisions. Yes, some of the trauma from childhood, but my life, it really showed that I was missing that, and so I will let them know God loves you just the way you are, and and especially for so many people that are incarcerated have a addiction to something. And I had my fair share of being addicted to, different drugs and stuff. And so I would also share with them that addiction is not their fault, but their recovery is all their responsibility. And and I would try to help them walk along that, to see how we can get there.
Okay.
It's a struggle.
Well, there's another group, and that
Uh-huh.
group is you believe in second chances. Obviously, you've been given a second chance. I've been given a second chance. But there's another side. The
Yeah.
recidivism rate is 70+% federally and statewide.
Yeah.
So if you were speaking to someone who has been disappointed, let down, and as we want to say, burned by trying to
Yeah.
help somebody when they get out of prison, what would you say to that individual to keep them going? And when I say keep them going, meaning if you just help one, you've made a difference. But what would you say based upon your experience? Because I deal with that quite often. So many
Yeah.
people are hurt. And I know what I share with them. I just share with them, why did you help them in the first place? And oh,
Mm-hmm.
it was altruistic. It was, well, if it was like that, then though your return was not what you expected,
Right.
continue to do what you do. What would you say?
I would let them know that the person's change is not their fault, whether they change or not. And to probably lower their expectations. Sometimes we have these high expectations that we place on people, and it's not fair to that person to try to expect for them to live up to our expectations. So I would tell them, pray about if you're supposed to be the person helping them. Sometimes we get in situations and we're not even supposed to be on that assignment at that time in our life, but we're just there because we see somebody and, oh, let me go and help them, and you putting your hands to something you may not even supposed to be touching, and so maybe you are. So I would pray, and I would tell them, ask God if he has you here or not, or if you're here on your own accord. And if God got you there, stay there, be by that person, help them as much as you can without expecting or wanting anything in return. Because for them, they already feel like a burden half the time, like, because when you first get out of prison, you're often like on the receiving end of whatever, you need this and that. And you're not really in a position to give anybody anything for a little bit anyway. So and that could cause you to feel, some kind of way about yourself as well. So just know that, I help people time and time again, and that's a tough road, because sometimes I get it frustrated, especially with people that hold on to their past, or hold on to, I'm a felon, I can't, and it goes on. And so it's just, sometimes people can also, they could hold on to that as almost a crutch, and it may be subconsciously that they don't even realize that they're doing it. But everything is, I'm a felon and I can't this or that or the other. So I would just try to tell the person that's helping them to try to be as encouraging as you can, stay the course, don't give up on them, because they already feel like probably they're waiting for you to give up anyways, they're expecting that. But also know if that's your assignment or not. Is that something that you're called to do, or if that's something that you're just doing out of your own? Sometimes people just want some kind of accolades, like, oh, I did this for this person, and it's not really out of the goodness of their heart. So
Right.
yeah.
Okay. So because you've been so successful with various jobs, because I've listened to your testimony.
Yeah,
If
it's
you
been a
were speak,
struggle though. It's been a struggle.
okay, here we
I think
go.
that people, it's really hard because so many people see where I am right now. I own my home. They see all of the good stuff now, but they don't know about them first few months when I got out of prison. They don't know, especially the men. The men. Man, I'm so hard on the guys, the men, because I'm like, no, I'm a female and I really had to grind and really had to, like, legally, and they'll tell me something about they don't have a ride somewhere, and I have zero understanding.
Okay. But this is your opportunity, because imagine on this side, you are speaking to business owners, you are
Mm-hmm.
speaking to presidents of corporations, because I know that and this is the new phraseology, returning citizens, people who have been
Right.
incarcerated and released. Statistics are showing that we're some of the most hardest
That's right.
working people. But I want you in 3 minutes or less. You're speaking to
Mhm.
the presidents, you're speaking to the business owners, you're speaking
Yeah.
to the managers, and you are presenting a case that hiring a returning citizen will not only affect the bottom line, but it's just the right thing to do. Go.
I would tell them you should, this person is worth you. And this, you're not taking a chance by hiring this person. They're going to be an asset to your business. They're going to be a hard worker because they know that this opportunity doesn't always come along. And they're going to give it everything they got every day because of their gratitude. You're going to see a gratitude from this person that you may not see from your everyday employee because they know how hard it is. It may be for the next door to open. And so by giving this person a chance, you're not just helping that person, you're helping their children, their community, and everywhere that, it's not just about that one person. And so you're helping the economy as a whole because this is another working person that is bringing in and adding to and not going to take away. Um, you know, and I would just let them know, it's so worth it. It's not that it's not about a chance. It's not about you taking a chance with them. Most, I believe in my heart, most people want to change and they just want an opportunity. And so if you just gave them an opportunity, so many times they will show that they were so worth it and more and more.
Okay. That's
Yeah,
very good. Very good.
yeah. The agency that I work for right now, I'll even back up for if you don't mind, but
Okay.
the agency I was at is I was working at a residential rehab facility for women, just for a few months before I started at the agency where I'm at right now. But at that agency, I'll never forget, I did not put my felony on my application. It said within 7 years, and it was 2017. And I was like, well, my conviction was in 2010, and I just left it blank. I didn't put it on there. A few weeks after I had started, she ran my background and called me in her office, the CEO, and asked me how come I didn't, tell her about my felony. And I said, well, it didn't apply to me. It said within 7 years, and mine has been over 7 years. And I hadn't been there but like 3 months. I was never late. I always gave every day all that I had. If she asked me to stay a little extra, if I could, I did. And I thought she was gonna fire me. She said, she said, your spirit is good for these ladies. And I'm glad you're here. She said, all right, you can go back to work. Just a few months later, this woman, she calls me in her office, and at that time I'm interviewing for the agency I'm at right now, and I hadn't told her that I was in this interview process. But she calls me to her office, and she said, at that time I was still on parole. She said, when do you get off parole? I said, I get off in August, this next summer. She said, I was just approved for a grant, a federal grant, but one of the stipulations is that I can't have an employee that's actively on parole. She said, but you know what? She said, we've been open for 20 years and we haven't had this money all this time. Don't worry about it. And she picks it up and throws it in her trash. She passed up money just to keep me because of my work ethic. I would tell any employer, give them not even giving them a chance. Just open this door for them. Be the blessing that you would want somebody to be if one of your bad choices on your worst days of your life had been revealed to everybody and you had to go to prison for it. Be the grace that they need. Just open that door.
Okay. I appreciate it. At this
Yeah.
point, do you have any questions you'd like to ask me?
Yeah. So thank you so much. I would say, what advice would you give men that are coming home as far as their expectations with family? They've been gone for however many years, um and I'm on a from my viewpoint, I see certain things, and so I'm wondering, what advice would you give me? And your brother, he just getting out of prison. Well, how would you advise him as far as what to expect from his family,
Okay.
as far
First
as
of all,
support or whatever?
okay. First of all, I would have to see or hear what kind of family he's walking into. I'll give
Okay.
you two examples. I have a friend, and basically, his family, all they do is drink, smoke, party, and other illegal activities.
Mm-hmm.
He chose to go and stay with a stranger of another race, and things have been going successful for him. He
Mm-hmm.
recently had a few struggles and wanted to go back to his family. And I told him just like this. I said, why didn't you go there in the first place? And he ran it down to me. And I said, what has changed? And he said, nothing. And I said, the best thing you can do, if you cannot stay where you're at right now, you should go to a shelter or find a
Wow.
church or find some help. Because when you were thinking with your right frame of mind and you came up with a plan, you prayed about a plan, a key part of that plan was, I'm not going right now to be with my family. Because we had
Right.
talked and I said, a lot of people think that just like we weren't ready made, well, man, I got to go back and help my family. You can only help your family when you know how to stand by yourself.
Right.
So
Right.
that's my advice to him. Another individual, his family is quite well off, and
Mm-hmm.
he had prayed, and the Lord basically told him, go to Charmed, which is in Houston.
Uh-huh.
And his mother and people who like him say, we've got the car, we've got the place, we've got all this for you. You know, we love you. You know, we supported you for over 15 plus years. And my advice to him was, when you were thinking with your sound mind,
Yeah.
what was the decision that you made? Well, I'm gonna go here. And that wasn't based upon a bad home environment. That was based upon him understanding that he did not need everything handed to
Yeah.
him. And
Yeah.
so any conversation I have with men about returning home, whether they have no place or bad place to return or a great place to return, I go back to something you alluded to earlier. What is God leading you to do? Because
You're
you could
right.
be in the best set of physical circumstances and turn
Mm-hmm.
around and find yourself right back incarcerated. Why would you say
Yeah.
that, John? Because this is just my personal belief. I believe that God's grace is immense,
Mm-hmm.
but God's grace implies that as he gives me the grace, he's giving me the freedom and the liberty to make decisions that he's leading me to make. When I make those decisions, I walk in liberty. I have relationships with liberty. When I don't, the same way that that physical bondage we call prison or jail was there, is
Right.
still there, and that can be a reward for that.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. You are so, so right. When I it's funny, I didn't parole to my family. Um, I didn't find an address to parole to by the time I made parole. And so parole just sent me to a halfway house in Austin, well, right outside of Austin called Del
Okay.
Valley. Um, and they just sent me there. And I'm from Houston. I know nothing about Austin. And so they sent me to this halfway house in Austin. And I get there and I'm there for like, you see, God had his hands all over me though. And I'm so grateful for his grace. And so I stayed there for about 1 month. I was released July 7th, 2014. And by August 5th, so my mother, she had gave me this great story about how she'd been sober now for 2 years. And why didn't I come to her apartment, right? So I transferred my parole. I'm like, man, I got to get out of this halfway house. I don't need to be here. I can't do this. I need to be in Houston. This is slowing me down. I'm ready to get a job and start working. I transferred my parole to my mom's apartment, and I stayed there for about 3 days. I get up in the middle of the night one night. She's in the living room smoking crack, and I was like, what have I got myself into? And it was either go back to an abusive relationship with my ex-husband, or what was I gonna do? I'm gonna be homeless. I went to a shelter. I went to a shelter and I stayed at that shelter for 6 months. I didn't leave that shelter till right before Christmas, the week of Christmas. So it's like almost 6 months that I stayed at this shelter. And that's where I needed that. I'm so grateful for that. So yeah, sometimes when you just go ahead and you don't wait to listen to God and see what He has for you, you can wind up in a jam, And I'm just grateful that once again He saved me and got me out of it and opened the doors to that shelter when I called, because I could have very easily been, on my way back, waiting on parole right now or something.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And I really, when we're discussing that, my mind immediately goes to a lot of gentlemen and even ladies that I know that'll be like, I ain't going to no shelter. I'm not, I'm not. And all I always tell them, I said, there's a reason the recidivism rate. I said, I'm not going to argue and debate with you. I'm going to say this. There's a reason the recidivism rate is like it is. And all I can tell you, thinking like that, meaning you need to do whatever you need to do that's legal
That's
and
right.
healthy
That's
to
right.
obtain what's for you.
Mm-hmm.
You told us about the hard times. You told us about where you came from. You've told us about mistakes, but you've also told us, look at you now. And one of the best things that I always tell people, look at who you're taking advice from.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to give advice. Everybody has good advice. But if you can't look in my life and
Mm-hmm.
see good success, I didn't just say success.
That's
You can
right.
have success, but it's not good success, meaning it's not
Mm-hmm.
healthy, whether it's not healthy emotionally or whether it's not healthy financially. But they're asking your opinion. They're asking my opinion for a reason. And so
That's
when you
right.
chose to ask whomever, you saw something in them that told you, hey, they can help me make a quality decision. If you don't want the
Uh-huh.
medicine, then deal with the repercussions. And so I
Exactly.
really appreciate what you shared. Is there anything else that you'd like to ask?
Um, uh, Let me see. I had jotted down a few.
Oh,
Um,
you jotted it down. Oh my gosh. I
huh?
made a list. Okay.
Oh yeah, I made a list. I made a list. Um,
Okay.
I would like to ask you, what relationship advice would you give someone that is coming out of prison? Come on,
I'm gonna
spill
give
it.
the advice that I'm walking in right now.
Okay, spill it.
If you say that you want to be in a relationship with someone, but
Mm-hmm.
your first thoughts towards them are thoughts that they are an object and not an individual, just know you're going wrong.
Okay.
And that sounds real wordy. And I say, okay, what that means is this. If I can use you as an example.
Sure.
Hey, man, I really like Lovinah. Okay, you like her. Why? Oh man, she looked like this, man, and she work here and she okay. I said, watch this. Let's take Lovinah out, and I'm just gonna put Charlotte in. The
Mm-hmm.
same things that you're saying, they apply to Charlotte. So I'm
Right.
telling you that you're looking at her not as who she is, but you're looking at her as an object. And the things about
Mm.
objects, we learn this as children. When the shine and the gloss and the newness wears off, we just sit them to the side. So my
Yeah.
advice to my fellow individuals, whether they're male or female, are you looking at a relationship properly? And then the next thing I ask, are you healthy? You want another to come share your life, because I'm assuming it's
Mm-hmm.
marriage. I'm just saying, because
Right.
I'm a believer in Christ, I'm assuming it's marriage. And so if I'm not healthy, number one, how can I see healthy? A lot of times people, especially after incarceration, something that I've noticed, they are quick to jump into relationships
Mm-hmm.
with people they knew before they left. I don't have a problem with that. So if someone's looking and saying, what you saying? What I'm saying is people will go back to the familiar
Yeah.
rather than pursue what God has for them. Who stays the
Mm-hmm.
same after 5, 10, 20 years?
Right. That's
Who can actually say I'm the same person I was? If you're, I'm just gonna just if you've been out of college or out of high school for over 10
right.
years, but you come back, oh man, this is the one for me. You don't even know who they are.
That's right. That's right.
And so basically to summarize it, you're not ready for a relationship if all you can do is look at the opposite sex as an object.
Mm-hmm.
You're not ready for a relationship if you are not healthy by yourself.
That's right.
And when
Mm-hmm.
I say healthy, let me qualify this before somebody no, 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 no. I know what it is. I want to mate. Healthy is in between the time when you're single and when you're married. How are you dealing with yourself? Because when that
Right.
individual comes in, they just don't bring whatever good. They bring in what they've been through. They bring in what they want. They bring in a mentality that you weren't even around to see how this came about. And so there's going to have to be some give and take. And so if you're not healthy on your own, bringing
That's
another
right.
individual into your life right now, it's going to destabilize you. And then my
Mm-hmm.
final thing about that whole situation is this: why you want to be in a relationship so bad? Just straight
Right.
up.
Right.
And if the first words out your mouth is, I don't want to be alone. That's like saying, say, I'll take any job. Why? I just need to get paid. I'm not saying that you can't make that statement and it be a proper statement, but I'm saying
Right.
most of the time, those are settling remarks. I don't want to be
Mm-hmm.
patient. I don't want to drink my coffee, go to a cold bed, wake up to a cold apartment or a house. And so I'm looking for something.
Mm-hmm.
Don't devalue singleness.
That's
And I
right.
have these
So much
conversations, and I'm
value.
not having them because I know so much. I'm having them because I'm experiencing that. And I ask God for answers. The
Mm-hmm.
Bible says, what I'm thinking about right now says, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want.
That's right.
What that means to me personally, when I find myself longing, I see it
Mm-hmm.
longing and desiring something, and when I don't get it, I'm miserable. That doesn't even match the word of God. It says, my yoke is
Right.
easy, my burden
That's
is light.
right.
So I'm gonna use a yoke is something that you put on your neck. A
Yeah.
burden is a
Yeah.
weight that you put on. Sometimes being single can feel like a yoke and a weight, but if I let God deal with it,
Mm-hmm.
then I can be set free from it.
Mm-hmm.
And until I'm set free, I can be a I can be directed and do what I need to do in my singleness. So that's actually
Absolutely.
advice that I share.
Yeah, that's really good advice. I believe, just being healthy, and I'll add and happy by yourself. I think it's really unfair to the relationship if you are expecting this somebody else to make you happy, but to be happy by yourself, within yourself, even without meaning that you're happy and content with who you are before the relationship, and the relationship is only a bonus, but not that you are waiting for a man or a woman to make you happy. You want them to give you something you can't give yourself. It's not fair to them, and it'll never work if you put that expectation on them. So
I saw something posted and I reposted it on my Facebook. There was
uh,
an airplane, there was a picture of an airplane and it was full and everybody had masks. And there was a picture of a church with pews and the pews were empty. And the basic question was, is something wrong with this picture? We're not going to church because of COVID. We're not there because of COVID.
oh
We're
yeah.
on the plane. We're on a plane, a closed-in area. The reason that I'm bringing that home is to say that God has seasons, and
Hmm.
each season has a purpose.
That's right. That's
And
the word.
just to be just as real as I can be,
Hmm.
sometimes you just have to grit your teeth in that season, so to speak. I mean, yeah, I'm literally
Hmm.
saying you just got to,
Yeah.
because I guarantee you what you'll get if you wait properly, who you'll get, what you'll experience, it'll be well worth it.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I believe that. Okay, I'll do one final question. One final
Okay.
question. Um,
Thank you. You're prepared.
yeah. Okay. What was your hardest struggle when you came home?
My hardest struggle when I came home was
Uh-huh.
the first job that I got at a Dollar Tree. It was part-time, COVID, but I was bound and determined I'm going to demonstrate I have no problem working. So I got that job quickly. And one day I was stocking the shelves, you know, and people were just passing by, people were passing by, people were passing by. And I had that thought. It's like, man, do I matter? I mean, people just passing me by. When I left, it's like it was
Mm,
ungodly, but it's like, man, I know you know me. What? And so I faced that.
yeah.
And I faced that in that aisle. And I said, if I need to stock shelves and be unknown to be pleasing to God, I would rather do that than be known and be
Hmm.
right back where I came from. And
Yeah.
so, although that might not seem like a struggle, that was a great struggle because that was
Oh
an
yeah.
ideology. That was a thought
Hmm.
process that I had since I was a little boy. Say, I would say,
Yeah.
I want the attention, I want the limelight, I want to get it, I want to be known.
Hmm.
And so, when that thought came, although it was a thought, I know you can understand this. The
Oh yeah.
mind is the battlefield. And when I
Oh
made up
yeah.
my mind, however long I have to stack these cans, I'd rather stack these cans than to put these cans up and go do some things.
Yeah. My God.
And so that was the greatest struggle. And in all honesty, everything else from not only knowing people as your like yourself, but just knowing different people who have been a help in my life. That's
Hmm.
why it has been a blessing. I'm not going to say easy. It has been a blessing because I have had countless individuals, the Lord first, but countless
Hmm.
individuals talk to me, check on me,
Yeah.
provide for me. And
Hmm.
that's why I just do my best to reciprocate that with others. And I say, man,
Absolutely.
you always, I said, I'm not doing it. Like I'm number one, God gets all the glory, but I'm only doing
Hmm.
what has been done for me. So when you wonder where the power supply come from, okay, I'm telling you that our supply is not that I'm great. It's that God is good,
Exactly.
but God has shown me repeatedly, and it took that to bring me out of selfishness and to bring me out of
Had
arrogance.
to
It
break
took
you.
me continuing to have to humble myself and ask questions to people and learn from other individuals. And now that has produced a character in me to where whether they're 18 and they're like, hey, I know how to do that a little bit better than you on the construction side. No problem,
Yeah.
bro. Come on and show me.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah, that humility. Yeah, it goes a long way. That humility is something. Um, I would say one of the toughest employment related struggle when I first got home was, I was staying at the shelter, and so I was riding a bus everywhere, getting lost almost every day. But and
Okay.
and so I would at the shelter, I shared it was four of us in a room. It was four of us in the room, and then our room connected to another room that had four women. And in the middle was a bathroom that we all shared. So it was eight of us in a rest sharing one restroom, one child, one
Okay.
toilet. But I'll never forget this one job that was a warehouse job. So this is like August heat. And I rode the bus. It was in Katy. No buses run out in Katy. The farthest I rode was to a parking ride. I walked from that parking ride to the warehouse place. It was like at least 5 miles, a little over 5 miles actually, in the August heat, trying to get a job. And I'll never forget, I got there and I was drenched in sweat, like literally, like my shirt was drenched. I was a mess. I interviewed with the guy and he's like, we can't hire you because you got an assault on your record. And I was so crushed. And he looked at me and he said, how did you get here? Because he saw I was just drenched. And I said, I rode the bus. He said, the buses don't run out here. I said, I know. I said, I rode it to as far as I could, as close as I could, and I walked the rest of the way. He said, you walked all the way from the parking lot? I was like, yeah. I said, sir, I need a job. And he felt so bad for me. He stopped doing the interviews and gave me a ride back to the parking ride. But one of the hardest things though was getting back up that next morning at 5:30, getting back on the bus, going to look for jobs again. I was so crushed and my spirit was so crushed and I was just so um just discouraged, and but I got back up that very next morning, 5:30 in the morning, like clockwork, start reading my Bible, prayed, and got on that bus by 7, going to put in more job applications. But that was hard. That was hard. Man, I was like, man, I could just hit one lick one time. I would be lying if I was saying it wasn't in my mind, but God, I said, no, I'm not taking my family through this no more. I'm not going back to TDC wearing white again. I go back in, but not wearing white. And I was just so determined and so hungry. I was like, I gotta get it, and I gotta change the right way. I'm sticking with it. But that was that was hard. that was
Well,
hard.
that's a blessing. And
Uh,
I know it just wasn't that one decision, but that one decision was in line with the chain of decisions that have you where you're at now. And so I
oh,
just encourage you, the decisions you're making now, circumstances look different, but imagine where you'll be later.
that's right. Yeah. I'm
Okay.
glad I didn't, I will never, and they say never. I will never, never do stuff that's illegal to get money. I'm not doing it. I'm not. I can boldly say never. I will never do stuff that's illegal to get money. Money is no longer my God. It used to be my God. Never again. Money used to be my God, and it will never be my God no more. I've passed up jobs paying more. No, no, God ain't tell me to go there. No,
Okay. Well, I
no.
appreciate you. I've enjoyed you immensely. And
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate this. It's been cool. I appreciate it. So hopefully, if nothing else, I can encourage somebody else to not give up. No matter what it looks like, no matter how many doors close, keep pressing. I don't care if 10 in a row, 12 in a row close. You keep going to the 13th. The one that's gonna open is for you. That's the one that's gonna open. And just know that the ones that close on you, they're closed for a reason, and be okay with that, because you know God is so faithful. He's so faithful, and as long as with that mustard seed of faith, man, carry you through.